Mic test.
Mic test 350.
Hello?
Hello.
It's really echoing. I'm not sure if that's me, Anna, or if that's you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Carrie McNabb Gopher Nisigasun, George Gordon First Nation. I am the American Indian Student Achievement Director, and I have my colleague, Miss Morgan Smith. I'll give you the platform, Morgan.
Thank you, Carrie. Osio Osti Chi Dinaraso Holchi, Akwav Sadadoa Morgan Smith, Chi Chalagi. It's nice to meet you all today. My name is Morgan Smith. I am a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and I am also with the American Indian Student Achievement Unit at the OPI.
I see my Uncle Jonathan front and center, so I got to act appropriate here. Okay, so I can't hear you, I'm sorry. He's muted, I cannot hear him. Okay, can we proceed? Yes? Still can't hear.
Their microphones aren't working, but they said you can go ahead and start.
Okay. Okay, so with the American Indian Student Achievement, we have a task force in place, which consists of different units within the OPI organization. And within this within the ASA task force, it is driven by the Macy board. The Macy board is now representatives across the state in different agencies and that have the desire of increasing student achievement. So the Macy board is made up of teachers, superintendents, principals, just to give you a little background, members from the OPI office itself. And within this Macy organization, they have derived a list of issues that Indigenous people face, American Indian student people face in the classroom setting and the districts and the schools and just basically everything that we face at being a Native American. One of the issues that was prioritized by the Macy board was the missing and murdered Indigenous people. So taking that priority list and sending it to the ASA task force to come up with strategies and ideas of how to bring awareness of this topic. So this is where this missing and murdered Indigenous people, where it's beginning. It's a continuous revolving issue that can't be solved overnight, if I may say. It takes a lot of awareness. It takes a lot of education. And that's basically where we're at with this presentation. Morgan, would you like to add anything before we begin?
Not really. I would just say that we had a lot of input from our ASA task force on different resources and ideas of how to approach this topic. So yeah, I feel like it was a good collective project, and it's, like Carrie said, something that's kind of ongoing, and we don't really have a lot of definitive answers, but we can just continue educating ourselves and others. So we'll pass it back to you.
Okay, let's proceed. So I just want to take a little bit time here to help you understand that the Violence Against Women Act, how important it is, and of the Act of 2022, how it expands the criminal jurisdiction of tribal courts to cover non-Native perpetrators of sexual assault, child abuse, stalking, sex trafficking, adult assaults, and on tribal land, and how the tribal law enforcement officers on tribal lands and supports the development of a pilot project to enhance. That's what this Women Act is about. So with the tribal partners through each phase of the justice system, it's different. So each phase has to create different solutions that are victim-centered and trauma-informed and culturally appropriate. And each tribe has their own ways of doing things. So this Violence Against Women Act is very, very important for the tribal organizations. The Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Awareness Day. You all know that it was President Biden created this day. He proclaimed May 5th, 2022, and on that day as the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Awareness Day. He said, I call on all Americans and ask all levels of government to support tribal governments and tribal communities' efforts to increase awareness of the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous persons through appropriate program and activities. So he put it on, he listened to our, basically, I want to say, to our voice. So that's a start. So now being at the table and having it a day is just one step to increase the awareness of what we deal with as Native American people. Before I go on, I want to share a story. We had two college students at night talking about, it's non-Native and a Native. They wanted to get out of the building before it got dark, and the non-Native student didn't understand that it's, oh, I'm leaving the same time. There is a difference because of the color of my skin, because of the ethnicity. I'm at more danger. So bringing that awareness and being what's the word, understanding. That's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do with the task force. How to teach, how to help students, how to help teachers, how to help staff, to help our students to be more self-aware. So I wanted to bring attention to the missing and murdered Indigenous people cases. There's a number of cases out there where if you go to the Indian Affairs website, and there's different ways of calling in. If you follow the website, and they list, the list is endless. You take a moment and you go through these, and it helps you to understand, gives you more of a better understanding of why this is such an important topic. Because it's happening to our people today. It's here. It doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the gender. We are going missing. So the awareness piece is it's vital.
Carrie.
And I just wanted, yes.
Carrie, I don't think they can see, we still just see the presentation. We're not able to see the link that you clicked on. You might need to
Oh,
reshare.
shoot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Carrie, the question I had was, this, list that you mentioned, is this, nationwide?
Yes.
We can use this one. Okay, I'm talking on that one and see what happens.
Let's go on. So some of the strategies that OPI and the task force, the Macy group,
Carrie?
like, yes.
Jonathan had a question, but I don't know if it's gonna happen there.
Okay.
And it's the one here because none of those are working. Maybe stand back, talk slow.
Yeah, I just asked the question that list that you showed, that link, is that nationwide or is that just Montana?
That's nationwide, Senator. That's nationwide. Did that answer your question? Because you were, I really couldn't hear you. You sounded like an alien.
I look like one too. Yeah, you answered it.
Okay. But that's the website that you can go to for the information of the reported missing and murdered Indigenous people. And that's one of the factors that we deal with within tribal communities, is that oftentimes it gets slipped under the rug and they're not, the data doesn't show the accurate number of missing and murdered Indigenous people. So now the strategies, Morgan, would you like to talk about the trauma-informed strategies that we talk about within implementing into the school districts? Or am I putting you on the spot, Morgan? Are you okay?
I will do my best. So we do have, one of our proactive strategies is just making sure that schools and teachers are trauma informed, whether that be at the tribal, federal, or state level, just to really help mitigate that traumatic stress. And also with this, and I might be jumping ahead, Carrie, so yell at me if I am, but we've also been bringing in the restorative practices piece of this as well. And that's something that we've been working on with the task force, really just making sure that students are able to connect with that self-identity and making sure we have those holistic approaches that focus on the whole child well-being, and making sure that really just students feel seen, and making sure that teachers, especially if we have non-native teachers going and working in tribal communities, that they have that understanding of the everyday challenges and issues that our native people are faced with, and just making sure that everybody's kind of on the same page, and that we're all educated in that sense of understanding the trauma that has led us to where we are, especially for those people that might not be familiar with it coming into our classrooms and working with our kids. So
one of the trauma-informed practices that the OPI agency is promoting is the residential school, the boarding school, intergenerational traumas. So pushing that and informing the educators and districts of the behaviors that have been passed on from the boarding school era. It's I go back to saying I do a presentation on the boarding schools because I'm a survivor of a boarding school, of a residential school. The last school in Saskatchewan, Canada was the Lebret Quapaw Indian Residential School that was torn down. So I'm a boarding school survivor. So those practices, those behaviors that have been passed on are still with us today. So understanding that piece, that trauma, the trauma-informed practices are so imperative in the classrooms. So that's the push that the OPI, through the hub course, through trainings, through webinars, through professional development, that OPI is implementing, which goes right into the restorative justice, with the restorative practices. So again, restorative justice are the principles and practices of to educators and staff, school board, superintendents, social workers, anybody, parents, students, the restorative practices, rather than being reactive, it's proactive. So we have a better understanding of, the OPI started out with MBI, Montana Behavior Initiative. That's a behavior system of being proactive rather than being reactive, based off of the intergenerational behaviors that are passed on from generation to generation. So with the restorative justice, with the restorative practices, we're teaching empathy, we're teaching compassion, opposed to being reactive, as in saying, you know, you expect me as a Native American student, you want me to come in and sit prim and proper and be ready to learn when I'm at home surviving the night. So those are the kind of issues when you're talking about restorative justice and restorative practices. This is what the team is going out with that information, with tribal and resiliency, the Crystal Hickman. She does a phenomenal job with her training on restorative justice, restorative practices. It's an understanding and it's a responsibility of every student, every parent, every individual on the face of the earth to understand restorative practices. So then that also brings us into cultural awareness. So when you are thinking about cultural awareness, you want to connect students to their culture, to their tradition and their indigenous knowledge. Especially when you're talking about Native American students, you want to use that connection and engagement with the people that you have in that system to teach those indigenous ways of knowing. So in each tribal affiliation is going to look different. Language integration is going to look different. Extracurricular activities is going to look different. The land-based learning, which we're pushing again through the Office of Public Instruction, land-based learning, what it sounds like, what it feels like, what it looks like. So when you're thinking about cultural awareness, you have to think about the wellness components as well. When you're thinking about healing and providing restorative practices, you have to think about the self-awareness. How are you implementing to help how are you helping me? I'm going to use me. How are you helping create that self-identity, that social awareness, responsible decision-making? Because I've been used to, I see my parents, I see my auntie, my aunt, my uncle, I see them doing, participating in unhealthy behaviors. So I think that's normal. How are you teaching me responsible decision-making and self-management and relationship building? So when you're talking about cultural awareness and connecting students to culture, we have to keep all these factors in mind. So these types of activities and strategies is what the implementation is. That's what we want to get out to the districts, which then leads us into creating that, the opportunities to always strengthen self-identity, helping our students understand that the behaviors are not appropriate. It's not normal to stay up till 5 o'clock every morning on games or doing a game thing, or it's not normal staying up till 5 o'clock listening to your parents. And granted, not all families are there. Not everyone is in that area, but there is some, and those are the students that we are trying to get to. So we can help them feel proud about their heritage and their identity of being a Anishinaabe, of being a full-blooded Crow, of being, the different tribal affiliations that we deal with, helping that piece so they can increase the academic piece of it, so they can have student achievement, which then brings us into the fostering school and community connections, because without creating that connection and that awareness with the community and the stakeholders, you have to create that strength and that relationship with the factors that can help you build. Because being a non-native, being a Caucasian coming into my community, being a non-member coming into my community, being a non-tribal affiliated person coming into my community, I'm aware of practices. I'm unaware of the practices that are in place. I'm unaware of the community connections. So when you're fostering that school and community connections, take note, take pride in where you're at, understanding the traditions and the cultural pieces of where you're teaching at, where you're serving at, in order to build that relationship. Then we get into social emotional learning, a big piece. Social emotional learning is it requires a basically understanding of how to be positive rather than being reactive. So not expecting me to sit prim and proper after a night of survival. Understanding that I need that social and emotional piece. Sometimes I need that hug. You know, sometimes I need that piece that will push me to the next level. Morgan, would you like to add on to the social emotional learning piece?
Yeah, I would just say, this kind of circles back to what we brought up earlier with, the whole child approach and the restorative practices. I know it kind of seems like, what does all of this have to do with missing and murdered Indigenous people? But if we're really not rooted in that identity in our traditional practices, then it makes it really hard, because we've had the opportunity lately to reach a lot of people through the Indian Education for All's background building series that Carrie mentioned with the boarding schools, right? The boarding schools cause so much historical trauma that we're still seeing the effects of today. And that really just leads back to the missing and murdered Indigenous people. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, these events that are happening within our own homes and families and communities. And just as Carrie said, these unhealthy behaviors we might not see as abnormal, because that's really all we know. So really building that cultural awareness and strengthening those whole child approaches, those restorative practice approaches within the school setting, helps support students as they grow older to learn those healthier habits and understanding what healthy relationships look like.
Which directly ties to the missing and murdered Indigenous people. Because if we can teach our students and bring that awareness of what's appropriate and the appropriate behaviors, then our students will not put themselves in harm's way. Our young Native Americans will not be in that situation. We hope. Which then brings us to the student mental health and wellness piece, which is an important piece with every individual. I don't care what age level you are, addressing the mental health concerns and what is happening, recognizing that spiraling effect of the traumas that are in place within the dysfunctional families, and supporting those families and those students in the school setting. So having those, being equipped with mental health and wellness strategies and being able to recognize those red flags. That's kind of what the Office of Public Instruction is focusing on. It's not just, showing up with a red hand paint on my face. Well, what does that tell me? That tells me nothing. That doesn't give me any strategies or any tools to change behaviors within myself. It doesn't, there's no alarming system in me. So it just says, oh, hey, they showed up with a red flag, or they showed up with a red handprint, or, oh, hey, they're wearing red ribbon skirts. These are the practices that need to be in place. Yes, they're amazing for the upfront, that, but what else are you bringing to your district? What else are you bringing to bring that awareness to put yourself in, not to put yourself in harm's way? So then the ASA task force came up with a list of possible strategies and possible different methods of reaching our students within the district. So using the student voice, always student voice. When you use student voice opposed to what we think is needed, we will be successful. So using Donnie's group, the Tribal Resiliency unit, have the RISE. It's called the RISE group, which consists of, he has representatives from each reservation school with the students. They take leadership classes. They take, he provides them with different resources, different ways of communication, just creating that leadership within themselves, so they can impact the rest of the student body. Using that student voice. How do you use the student voice to build capacity? We also have the hub courses, with the resources attached to it. And I do believe that we are in the process of creating more hub courses, additional hub courses to increase the awareness of missing and murdered Indigenous people. You have the safety, you can use safety courses, tips for K through 6, never walk alone, know your, just different little safety strategies for our K through 6 students, understanding their full name, where they're from, who, I hate to say numbers because none of us really remember phone numbers, but if we do, we could say, give them these different every grade level could have a different safety tip, bringing that awareness immediately. So our students are equipped with what's, understanding stranger danger. That's one of the things my granddaughter up here in Canada is saying, stranger danger, don't touch stranger danger, can't talk to strangers. Those kind of safety tips. Awareness strategies with the older grades on missing and murdered Indigenous people is the history, why this is an issue. The law enforcement and the lack of the response that they can't report it, the socioeconomic issues, the housing crisis, how kids are couch surfing, they really don't have anywhere to check in, the intergenerational trauma, the abuse, the emotional, spiritual, physical abuse, the drug use, the human trafficking, the alcohol abuse, understanding that this history and why these practices that they're unhealthy practices, which goes back to the boarding school era, always having to start there. And we're not there no more. We continuously healing. We are healing right now by bringing this awareness. Always understanding, equipping our teachers, our staff, our districts with the trauma lens. Why is this happening? This is not normal. Yes, it is. What can we do? How can we help these students that are grieving? What support system do we have in place for our youth? What leadership training do we have in place for our youth? What are the networks? What are our stakeholders in place that if they don't feel safe immediately, where can they reach out to? So having these different strategies to bring awareness to all ages. This is what the task force is in the process of getting this guidance document out. And then we have all the resources. So Canadians say resources. I just want to, let you know, Canadians say resources and we say resources. Just a little tidbit. So we have these different books that can be used in different novels, that can be used in areas of curriculum. So if you implement these types of books that have the true story of racism, the indifference and the pursuit of justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, these can be used in the curriculum. No More Stolen Sisters, another novel that can be used in the system. Just finding those resources that can be implemented into the curriculum, into the English curriculum, into the math curriculum, into the FCS, into whatever curriculum, having it available for the districts is another strategy that can be used. Getting that list out is on the topic of the ASA task force. And then of course, along with that, we have the resources and links. And this is a continuous working document within the ASA task force and the Macy. It bounces back and forth. It's like we get this part done, then we take it back to Macy, and then they want us to add more to it. So it's a continuous document that is revised. If we see more, we have a working document within the ASA task force that all of the members have access to it, that we can provide different research best practices to the document. Morgan, would you like to add to that?
Sure. So just in kind of summary here, to kind of circle it back, we definitely don't have any definitive answers of how we can fix this issue, because this is such a huge crisis that's happening not just in the US or just in Montana, but all across North America. And so what we are really just striving to do as educators is provide resources to people to educate themselves, to educate our students to understand what healthy relationships are. So I guess my ask of you all in the room today is what are your guys' ideas? What are your thoughts on how we could proceed in helping this issue and doing it in a thoughtful, meaningful way that positively impacts our Native youth and helps them understand what those healthy relationships look like so we can break this cycle? And I know we can't hear you guys, but I feel like you're kind of, I see your mouths moving.
They fixed the microphone, so
Oh,
now,
yay.
so, you can use one of these microphones, not the computer one, no. Yep, they work now.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Kind of sound like that Verizon commercial. Anyways, I think that you hit the nail on the head here, what you guys presented, because I think those are the real issues that we face out there in Indian country. And I think that until the day that we start to address these somehow, I think is probably going to be the first step to understanding what it's like. Because you're right, Carrie, as far as understanding how Indigenous communities are, that what you've described is what our kids are faced with in the high rates of drugs and meth and fentanyl now. It's just compounded one another. So it's I commend you guys for the information you guys have, and I think it's going to be something that would probably best relate to a solution. And I think that a lot of these things, because of all of the dysfunctions that's going on in Indigenous communities with this, then comes the birth of a lot of meth and fentanyl
Mhm.
babies, which I always say that's another new generation of obstacles that we're going to be faced
Yes.
with in reality, because as far as any types of solutions coming for those, it hasn't even hit the radar. And so that's why I think that it's real important, however way that approach is, that we do definitely have to come together with solutions with other departments such as HHS and DOJ and all of these others, because until that happens, until the rise in fentanyl use in our communities it's going to be a problem. But thank you guys for hitting this head on, because it's the truth of the matter.
Thank you.
I think
We're
one of the
doing our
things
best.
that you're doing a phenomenal job. I think with the hub courses, and it's all in talking phases right now, but just that idea of giving space so that it's not necessarily just learning from one person, but also creating a space for collaboration. And that proactive approach is so important. And to be honest, sitting here, I was like, okay, wait a minute, Carrie, where are you going with this? But I see it. It's that holistic approach. So how could you not mention everything that you mentioned? Because all of it has something to do with that whole proactive piece and awareness. So we will be looking forward to some hub courses in the future.
And
And
also
if I-
too, in the same token, Carrie, when you mention about holistic, I think there's a difference between having holistic without the W and holistic with the W. And I think that I've always contended over for decades that in order for an individual to become I guess, I don't know if a better student is a way to describe it, but until I guess I can give one good example is that language in a system, it's proven that the person who has dual language ability has more of a higher chance of having a higher IQ. And I think that, I've always, like I said, I always stated last couple of generations that, it's good that our different departments, not only in the state, but the federal level is number one. We deal with the mental health of our person. We deal with the emotional health, and we also deal with the physical health. But the fourth aspect of the person is what's missing, and to be known as a total nihil, four-bodied person, and that's the spiritual aspect of it. And I think that once, and you hit the nail on the head there as far as cultural awareness and stuff. And I think that however way that's going to happen is it's going to become more of a challenge for us, because number one, that the loss of the elders in our communities with or the knowledge keepers that are passing on and all of these things, it's becoming more and more prevalent. And I think that that aspect of learning in our communities, I think should be a high priority. That's why I say congratulations, keep going, hold your head up, and don't let anybody discourage you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Carrie and Morgan, for being here today. And that concludes our second or third time with Tribal Ed Caucus. Next week, we will have tribal consultation, and Donnie Wetzel will be here to give you a presentation and then open it up for discussion.
Any questions online?
So just very quickly before we end, I'd like to introduce myself before you end your meeting there. Good afternoon, well, good evening. My name's Hillary Gorno, and I'm the Head Start Director here for Fort Peck. And I am the ex-officio for Macy Board. And I just wanted to hop on and introduce myself and applaud Carrie Gopher for her words that she speaks on behalf of all Indigenous women and Indigenous men, including transgender. And I also just want to support that cultural competence training, in that, that doesn't just stop at our teachers, that it also goes into our administration and also goes to our school board trustees, because we do have to see that, biases, they are alive and we all carry them. And so being able to have that type of training available to multiple tiers within the school district and our community is definitely something we need to continue doing and reaching out. I do sit on our school board for Poplar Schools as well. And so I see that playing out, that lack of knowledge playing out within that arena as well. So, and just I was taking some notes as we were visiting, and I see here at Head Start by the age of 3, they're already coming in with ACEs, so AKA traumatic events already happening and taking place in their homes. So I'm seeing that, and so supporting early learning and supporting your tribal Head Starts is something that I continue to I guess speak on and ask. And I know that early Head Starts are happening. I know we have daycare centers and preschools. And so that early learning and being able to set a strong foundation. We also do a lot of work with families within our communities. And I just want to say that Indigenous children have higher rates due to being born into historical trauma and generational trauma. And that stems from colonization and also oppression. And so there's certain things that they are born into and that we cannot control, but we can give them skills and we can provide them with love and kindness and a sturdy foundation. And so I just ask and continue to pray and watch over everyone at the, at the state level and at our community level that are really advocating and fighting for our children and our families. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you. And it was just nice to be here. And I appreciate the Zoom link that was sent out. I also sent it out to other Head Start directors, and maybe they'll join next week. So thank you.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you, everybody.